Welcome back to Narrations, where we retell the greatest movies ever made in vivid detail. Today, we're unraveling one of Alfred Hitchcock's most haunting and psychologically complex films, a story of obsession, illusion, and tragic love. This is Vertigo, 1958. The film begins in San Francisco, where retired police detective Scottie Ferguson finds himself dangling from a rooftop during a chase. A fellow officer tries to save him, but falls to his death. The incident leaves Scottie with a crippling case of acrophobia, an intense fear of heights that induces terrifying vertigo. Shaken and unable to continue working in law enforcement, Scottie drifts into semi-retirement. One day, an old acquaintance, Gavin Elster, contacts him. Elster is worried about his wife, Madeline. She has been acting strangely, almost as if possessed. Elster wants Scottie to follow her, not as a policeman, but as a friend who can observe discreetly. Curious and unsettled, Scottie accepts. What follows is not a typical surveillance job. It feels more like stepping into a dream. Scottie trails Madeline through the streets of San Francisco, and her movements are eerie, almost ritualistic. She visits a grave belonging to a woman named Carlotta Valdez, a tragic figure from the past. She spends hours gazing at Carlotta's portrait in a museum, buys a bouquet of identical flowers, and even drives to the Mission San Francisco de Asís, where she wanders the graveyard in a trance. Scottie begins to suspect Madeline believes herself possessed by Carlotta's spirit. Each day of following her draws him closer, and his professional distance dissolves. Madeline's beauty and her sadness captivate him. One afternoon, Madeline throws herself into the San Francisco Bay in a sudden attempt at suicide. Scottie dives in after her, rescuing her from drowning. It is the turning point. What began as detached observation blossoms into intimacy. The two spend time together, exploring the redwood forests and the windswept coast. Madeline speaks of dreams and death, of feeling as though her life is not her own. Scottie, despite his own psychological scars, falls deeply in love. But tragedy strikes. At the old Spanish mission of San Juan Bautista, Madeline runs into the bell tower in a fit of despair. Scottie chases her, but his vertigo prevents him from climbing higher. Paralyzed by fear, he watches helplessly as Madeline plunges to her death. The loss devastates Scottie. A court inquest rules it suicide, but blames Scottie's weakness for failing to prevent it. He withdraws completely, haunted by guilt, by failure, and most of all by Madeline's memory. He wanders the streets, replaying moments of their time together, tormented by the sight of women who vaguely resemble her. Months later, Scottie sees a young woman named Judy Barton on the street. She bears a striking resemblance to Madeline, though her hair is different, her demeanor more ordinary. Compelled by obsession, Scottie approaches her. Judy, a shop girl from Kansas, at first seems startled by his intensity. But then, alone in her room, the truth is revealed. Judy is Madeline. In a chilling flashback, the audience learns what Scottie does not yet know. Gavin Elster never believed in possession. It was a murder plot all along. Judy was his accomplice, disguised as Madeline. She acted out Carlotta's tragic story to lure Scottie into becoming the perfect witness. When Judy ran into the tower, the real Mrs. Elster was already dead. Elster pushed her body from the top, and Scottie, frozen by vertigo, could not intervene. It was a flawless crime. Judy, however, fell in love with Scottie during the deception. Now she faces an impossible choice. Continue living as Judy and risk losing him, or let herself be transformed back into Madeline in order to keep his love. Scottie's obsession consumes him. He persuades Judy to change her clothes, style her hair, and even wear the same necklace Madeline once wore. Each demand strips Judy of her identity, turning her back into the ghost of a woman who never truly existed. Judy resists at first, but her feelings for Scottie overpower her will. Finally, when she emerges dressed exactly as Madeline, Scottie embraces her passionately, convinced he has brought his lost love back from the dead. But the illusion cannot hold forever. One evening, as Scottie admires Judy's transformation, he notices the necklace around her neck, Carlotta's necklace, the very one Madeline had worn. The truth crashes over him. In a state of fury and revelation, Scottie forces Judy to return with him to the mission where the tragedy began. He drags her up the bell tower, his vertigo threatening to consume him again. But this time, driven by anger and the need for answers, he conquers his fear and ascends to the top. Cornered, Judy confesses everything. She admits she was used by Elster, that the woman who died was the real Madeline, and that she played a role in deceiving Scottie. Her tears and pleas reveal she truly did fall in love with him, even if it began as a lie. Scottie, standing high above the courtyard, realizes the depth of his obsession, the cruelty of the deception, and the tragedy of their twisted relationship. For a moment, there is a fragile reconciliation between them. But fate intervenes once more. A shadowy figure, a nun investigating the noise, startles Judy. Terrified, she steps backward and falls from the tower to her death. Scottie, cured of his vertigo but hollowed by grief, looks down upon her lifeless body. He has finally conquered his fear of heights, but at the cost of losing the woman he loved, twice. The film ends with Scottie standing silent on the tower ledge, utterly alone, staring into the abyss. Vertigo is not simply a thriller. It is a haunting study of obsession, of how love can twist into control, and of how illusions can destroy both the dreamer and the dreamed. Hitchcock leaves us not with closure, but with the unsettling sense that sometimes the past cannot be reclaimed, no matter how deeply we desire it. That was Vertigo, 1958. Alfred Hitchcock's hypnotic masterpiece about love, deception, and the dangers of obsession. If you enjoyed this narration, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Narrations for more classic film retellings. And remember, sometimes the things we chase are nothing more than shadows. Thanks for watching.